It is all heating up in the UFO sphere with the US's lead UAP investigator coming out with quite an alarming statement regarding alien life forms on Earth. The Department of Defense aren't typically ones to open up regarding aliens, UAPs or anything extraterrestrial related. That was until the Department of Defense's lead UAP hunter made a strange remark regarding potentially having alien life forms on Earth, which completely contradicts any evidence and statements that we've had over the past few months regarding reverse engineering spacecraft on Earth. This all kind of came to my attention because it was sent in to me by a viewer, so thank you so much to you for sending it in. Just on a quick note as well, if you have anything that you want to send in, be sure to email it over. Send it to us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter's a very good place as well. Just search Lainey and Ben on Twitter. We're kind of keeping up to date with stuff over there. And I'm in the process of making a bit of a Discord channel, or kind of rejuvenating our Discord channel. So when that's all set up, I'll be sure to leave links to that. But it was to a Newsweek article which states Pentagon's former UFO hunter speaks out on UAPs and aliens, and this is from January the 25th of this year. It goes on to say, the scientist at the Department of Defense DoD, who was until recently tasked with investigating UFO sightings, has said he's found no evidence of alien life on Earth, despite claims of a government conspiracy to, quote, reverse engineer crashed spacecraft. Speaking on the In the Room podcast with Peter Bergen on Tuesday, Sean Kirkpatrick, who's become quite infamous in the UFO space recently, who until the start of December was an integral director of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, otherwise known as ARROW. He said, quote, the best thing that could happen in this job is I find the aliens and I could have rolled them out, but there's none. The rare interview comes after Kirkpatrick stood down from leading the Federal Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena, otherwise known as UAP, Investigations Unit, which was established by an act of Congress in 2022. ARROW, which is tasked with investigating potential UFO sightings through data and witness interviews, has received renewed attention from former members of the military, testified to the House Oversight Committee that the government was secretly in possession of alien technology. And this is where it really starts to spice up. 3 former military witnesses were invited to give testimony last July. During the hearing, they said the government had been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s, while David Grush, also very big in the UFO space right now, a United States Air Force veteran who previously worked on investigating UFOs, made claims that the federal government was in possession of alien UFO and bodies of, quote, dead pilots. On the podcast, Kirkpatrick suggested many of people his department had interviewed had offered similar stories to the one that Grush had outlined in his testimony, but it went further. Quote, the story goes something like this. Kirkpatrick summarized, the US government has been hiding as many as 12 UFOs, possibly going back to the mid-60s, and maybe even the 40s if you include Roswell. And the US government have been trying to reverse engineer these to no avail. Quote, and as a consequence, they abandoned the efforts to industry who wanted to continue to look at this. Now, it goes on, it's a very, very long article, so if you want to kind of check it out, there will be the link to this article down below. But the interesting point to highlight in this is just a couple of paragraphs on where it says Kirkpatrick estimated that 9 in 10 cases of pilots seeing UAPs that were referred to ARROW turned out to be caused by parallax, a phenomenon wherein an object appears to change position because of a change in the observer's point of view. Now bear that in mind, because since this whole interview between Kirkpatrick and since he was on this podcast, he's rubbed some people up the wrong way, and some pretty big people in the UFO space who have quite big how do we say it? Let's say quite big. They've got quite a good reputation for themselves. They've been reliable sources of information over the years. Now, one of those people is Chris Mellon. Many of you, if you kind of follow the UFO space, I only recently learned of this guy, but if you know, you know, basically. But basically, I found this video, which kind of goes into a lot more detail than I can provide, and we're going to be checking it out together from the YouTube channel NightShift. There will be a link to NightShift down below, so you can go and check out their content, because they are really keeping in depth with everything UFO related. In the description, they state Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AARO, recently published an opinion piece in Scientific American, which he attacked the UFO research community. Chris Mellon responded to the tweet that called out Kirkpatrick's claims. In the video, I will break down the situation and explain what is going on. So let's take a little look at this, because trust me, this gets real spicy.
Welcome to the Night Shift. I'm Clint. Let's talk about aliens. If you have not been following the Sean Kirkpatrick saga that's been unfolding online over the last week, then man, are you in for a treat, because this thing is really heating up.
Now, one thing I forgot to mention, it was not just the podcast and this interview that he's done. He's done multiple things over the past kind of 2 to 3 weeks regarding UFOs, and he's, like I said before, he's really rubbed people up the wrong way.
Looks like there's a little bit of a flame war taking off between Sean Kirkpatrick and Chris Mellon. So if you're not familiar, Kirkpatrick is the former director of AARO. AARO stands for the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Now, what is that? The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, here's Kirkpatrick right here, is an office that was set up within the Department of Defense on a mandate from Congress. And their job was to investigate, or is to investigate, using rigorous scientific analysis, claims about sightings of UFOs, UAPs, both contemporary and historical claims, right? So that's their job.
So to just break that down for anyone that doesn't quite understand that, basically anything that's unidentified in our skies and gets reported goes straight to this department, and then they look into it with a fine-tooth comb, break it all down, and basically either confirm or deny. In many cases, though, they never confirm. They just go, we don't know what that is. Hence the jellyfish UFO incident a couple of weeks ago.
Patrick was the director. He staffs this office, and he himself is a physicist, and his staff is highly qualified and well-credentialed. And their job, and I believe they mean well, but their job is to go in and get answers and provide Congress with some usable data so that they can write policy on all this stuff. Now, famously, Kirkpatrick stepped down after 1 year and after not finding anything. And the title of his article, or his piece in Scientific American, is "Here's What I Learned as the U.S. Government's UFO Hunter." Spoiler alert, he did not learn much. So he uses this article as an opportunity to torch the UFO community. And he makes a lot of really crazy statements in here. He calls us conspiracy theorists. He says that a lot of what we're talking about is just a whirlwind of tall tales, fabrication, and secondhand or third-hand retellings of the same. There was a social media frenzy that made it impossible for him to do his job because everybody was so wrapped up in all the sensationalism around this that he just couldn't get to the answers.
So based off of those claims and kind of statements there, you can see why a lot of people are not big fans of Sean Kirkpatrick right now. He's literally lit a fire under the arses of many people, and they're not taking it too well.
And here it is. He says, conspiracist story goes something like this, and then he tells this whole for a paragraph, he goes into this really inaccurate retelling of what he thinks we think is actually going on. I'll put a link to this in the show notes. You can go ahead and read the whole thing. I just did a video on this yesterday, but basically he uses this as an opportunity to just torch everybody, and it's pretty bad. So the plot thickens because yesterday Chris Mellon puts out a tweet responding to this, and here's what Chris Mellon had to say. "I was astonished by one of the central claims made by Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick in his recent article in Scientific American, blasting UAP conspiracists," in quotes. Specifically, his claim that as of the time of my departure, none, let me repeat, none of the conspiracy-minded whistleblowers, in quotes, in the public eye had elected to come to AARO and provide their evidence, in quotes, and statement for the record, despite numerous invitations. I'm baffled because in an effort to assist his investigation, I introduced Dr. Kirkpatrick to the former director of the ATIP program, Lou Elizondo, as well as Dr. Eric Davis and Dr. Hal Puthoff. Each of these prominent voices associated with the ATIP program spent hours briefing Dr. Kirkpatrick in a classified setting. Ooh, none have received any feedback. Hopefully, the pending report to Congress on the alleged UAP recovery program will describe the specific claims made by these and dozens of other witnesses and what AARO did to evaluate them. Wow. Okay, so Chris Mellon returns fire to Sean Kirkpatrick after that crazy Scientific American piece. So this has been going on for a little while now. In fact, we just found out a few days ago that someone, we don't know who, has been going into Wikipedia and editing Ross Coulthart's listing in Wikipedia to pull down a lot of his accolades and awards and make him seem like a less notable journalist than he actually is.
So you've got to really look at this now, and it's like, it goes way beyond just providing, statements and witness testimonies and all the rest of it and trying to provide information for Congress. It now goes, people are literally going into Wikipedia pages to make people look less credible than they actually are, to make it seem like they're just nutcases talking about just random rubbish. So it is really getting quite ridiculous, to be perfectly honest, and it's mad.
We know he is. So as you start to chase down the information and follow it down the rabbit hole, they really don't want you looking in this direction. And in fact, with regard to the Ross Coulthart thing, Lou Elizondo responded to that on the Good Trouble Show, which if you're not a subscriber, you should be. Here's what Lou Elizondo had to say. This is more than just an attempt to disparage. Now, he's talking about Ross Coulthart's Wikipedia scandal that's been going on. He says, this is more than just an attempt to disparage a few of us working towards disclosure. In fact, it's an assault on the very freedoms of every person who looks to reliable sources for information. When the outlets designed to inform and clarify information become corrupted by a few reckless, agenda-driven zealots, it becomes downright dangerous for all of our freedoms and casts doubt on all forms of media and freedoms of the press. We must do a better job at policing ourselves of these types of characters. Remember, there is no greater evil than that which wears the mask of virtue.
Strong words there from Lou Elizondo, who, again, another very prevalent part of the UFO community, and, kind of a person who people look to for reputable forms of information regarding alien sightings, UFO sightings, or UAP sightings, whatever you want to call them. And he's got a fair point, in my opinion. It does come across as very agenda-driven, kind of going into Wikipedia, which, if you're using Wikipedia as your source of information, then there's something very wrong there, because we all know that Wikipedia is not the most reputable of places, but the point still is valid. People shouldn't be going in, changing credentials to try and better suit a narrative towards these people.
This thing has always been an information war. All the way back as far as you want to go. If you want to go back to Roswell, first they recovered a flying saucer. A few days later, it was a crashed disc. And that information warfare campaign has been unfolding for decades now. And it's always been about controlling the narrative, making sure that this whole subject looks so silly that no one in their right mind would actually spend time looking at it. And if you did look at it, you risked damage to your career, or possibly even torpedoing your entire career just from looking at this. Famously, like John Mack, the head of psychiatry at Harvard University, Pulitzer Prize winning author, was called before a board at Harvard University for even researching the abduction phenomenon. They didn't want him even looking at this. So this has been going on for a long time, and this is nothing new. But it's unfolding in a different way. It's unfolding in a lot more public way because there are more eyes on it now. And I think we're on to the game. Like, people are up to speed on how this game is played. and so we know what to look for.
I think he's got a very fair point there, and you know, the control of information, obviously, it's nothing new. You know, not just within the UFO space, alien community, whatever, like just in all walks of life, information is controlled, whether it be by the government, news outlets, however you want to put it. There is definitely, you know, ways that people put things across to make it seem to fit their narrative. But you know, I think people are, and I agree with this statement here, that people are kind of catching up now. We are in a world where at our fingertips, on our phones, we are able to get information so quickly that, you know, and we've got a lot more freedom in terms of, you know, me making this YouTube video, or you know, the NightShift making his YouTube video, or whoever. There is a lot more freedom in how media is put out there now. It's not controlled by editors at big journalist, you know, firms like The Sun, The Mirror, whoever you get your information from, where, you know, information's passed through and it's like filtered to be what people want it to be, or how they want the narrative to be portrayed. Now, people can go on and tell their truths, or however you want to look at it, through the means of videos, posts, Twitter. You know, people got so much more freedom, and it's opened up the floor to a lot more information. So, you know, it's just wild.
What we're seeing here is an information civil war that is spilling out into the open. I believe within the military-industrial complex, there are multiple factions that are all kind of quietly competing with one another. Some of them are working unbeknownst to others on different pieces of the project, and they're all trying to manage the narrative in some way. And I think a certain faction has broken free of this machine, and they want to make this information public.
The music just jumped in there, and I truly shit up there. Like, I was not ready for that. I'm sorry.
For whatever reason, I have my suspicions as to what those reasons might be, but I think that's what you're seeing here. And I think Elizondo and Chris Mellon and Grush and others represent that faction.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. Obviously, there is still a few more minutes left of that video, so if you want to continue hearing what the NightShift has to say, again, go down into the description where there will be a link, and you can go and check out that full video for yourself. And be sure to check out his other videos, because they're very, very enlightening. Like I said, he put it in a way that I definitely couldn't have, so that's why I wanted to use his video, because it just seemed the most concise, best way to portray that evidence. Now, what do you make of it? I'll hand it over to you. Obviously, we got a couple of sides of this equation, you know, this whole Sean Kirkpatrick thing. It's all kind of kicking off. You know, he's saying there's no evidence of aliens, and then you've got whistleblowers like David Grush who was saying we've got alien pilots on planet Earth that we've recovered from the crash sites. So it's almost like this war, like the NightShift just said, of information. It's like, you know, people are like butting heads because Sean Kirkpatrick's like, we've got nothing. David Grush is like, we've got something, and then they're butting heads, and I guess it's whoever can shout the loudest wins in this situation. But I'll hand it over to you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And while you're down there, be sure to jump scare the hell out of that like button if you have gone on to enjoy. Subscribe if you're new, and tickle my little bell so you get notified whenever we upload. And until next time, guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I do actually look forward to seeing your thoughts and opinions on this. And until next time, I hope you've enjoyed, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video, and I'll speak to you later. Peace.